Hello and welcome to a live from digital Cannes Capture special. I'm here with Emma Newman, CRO of PubMatic. Emma, first up, a huge thanks for taking the time out of what I imagine is a very hectic schedule.
Do you know what? I've been quite looking forward to having this moment where I can just sit down and take a moment, so you're very welcome.
So I went to one of the events yesterday, which was outside of Cannes. I remember getting into the taxi just thinking, oh, what a result.
15 minutes, yeah.
And then somebody else came in and I was like, oh, I need to be sociable.
Yeah.
No, it's an amazing event. And obviously for PubMatic, I know you guys are always trailblazing and leading the conversation. As you came into Cannes this week, what have been the really big themes and the hot topic on your agenda?
So I think that there are a couple of things that you would expect. So a lot of conversations around transparency, brand safety, curation. So a lot of conversations around how do we curate an open web so that brands are feeling comfortable about buying across the open web, because you need to have an open web. It should be a situation where we can fund responsible journalism, premium content. So being able to have brands feel comfortable about buying across the open web, generally through curated marketplaces or some kind of deal-based buying that's slightly broader than maybe just a one-to-one PMP.
Yeah.
So that's an evolution of a conversation that I've seen happen over the last couple of years.
Absolutely, that's so exciting. It's been so exciting for SSPs actually to see that, to create that situation.
Yeah.
Where do you think we are on that journey of actually more inventory being bought on the open web?
Well, I think that it's not necessarily it's being bought on the open web, but it's being able to be an open web curation so that it's still deal-based buying, but it's sort of broader deal-based buying, if that makes sense. And we're doing that for a lot of agencies. A lot of brands are asking for that, because you do need scale, but you want quality at scale, and so this enables them to do that.
And that's where you can achieve that. Okay, awesome. So as well as the kind of the creative audiences, what else have been the big thing?
I think that we're seeing a maturation of CTV. So people are much more comfortable talking about CTV. I still think there's a bit of a way to go around biddable in that environment, but people are you're seeing people start to think about, okay, how do I move IO perhaps into PG, then how do I move PG into PMP? So I've personally had a lot of conversations both with buyers and with CTV publishers this week about how do we move that forward. So there's been, I think, a maturation of that. I think there's also, we're seeing...
Sorry to interrupt there, but on the CTV piece, when you're speaking to agencies, and we hear about CTV so much, what's the demand like from agencies to invest versus traditional channels on CTV?
I think there's an appetite. There's definitely an appetite there. I think, again, it's about how do we make them feel safe about this?
Yes.
Because it's still... For me, it feels like it's been around forever.
Yes.
That's
and exploded post-COVID.
And it's like, but in ad tech years are like dog years, aren't they? So something's been around for a year, it feels like it's been around for 7. So, it's about, we are helping people go on that journey, but I do feel like the journey is accelerated and people are more lent in. So absolutely lots of interest and demand from the buyers, and also, more openness from the CTV publishers to say, okay, how do we make this more available at scale? So that's kind of the maturation of that. And then we're also starting to see a lot more conversation with what I would call traditional broadcasters.
Yes. And who do you define as traditional broadcasters?
Well, Sky, TFN, Channel 4. So how do they, again, how they're moving from linear to BVOD, or their audiences are moving to BVOD. Linear's still very strong, that's an absolute channel that no one's suggesting anybody doesn't buy linear, but the broadcasters are seeing where their audience is going. So then how do they make that audience available? It's in a digital environment. How do they lean into, sort of more of the automated buying of that? So we're having more conversations around that as well.
And I'm sure when they're looking at where their audiences are accessing their content, the direction of travel is
100%.
Is clear to see.
100%.
What challenges do you think face against broadcasters and CTV publishers in general when it comes to brands being able to access their content easily and safely? What are the challenges for them?
Yeah, I think that I'm not sure they're necessarily mutually exclusive, to be honest. I think there are challenges around legacy technology and how do they bring their separate technology platforms together. And I'd say that was more from the traditional broadcaster BVOD linear side of things. So I think that's something that we've been talking to broadcasters about, and they're sort of, that's priority number 1 for them. It's like, in order to be able to take advantage of this, we need to, do that. I think there's a lot of education that needs to be done. certainly in the broadcast space around this, and we're very much leaning in. We've done day-long whiteboarding strategy sessions with some of the key broadcasters, just to help them understand a little bit more about the space. I think the other challenge is measurement, so consistency in measurement. I was talking to a buyer this morning, and they're talking about, well, actually, we just see telly or video as telly or video. We're not necessarily now starting to think about linear, BVOD, CTV, OLV. We're starting to consolidate our planning and our thinking, and how do we therefore then plan across that in a way that enables outcomes that we can then measure against and report back to our clients. And they've been quite separate. So there's a lot of conversation around, okay, well, how do we get consistency in measurement? So I think that's a little bit of a challenge / opportunity.
Yeah, well, it ties in so much. On the podcast this week, CTV's been such a big topic, curation has, and of course measurement's actually been the other
element. It's like a three-legged stool.
There's obviously another conversation that can't away from that. It's a huge festival, but they've been the three things, and it's always interesting hearing it from the primary angle, but then it naturally leads into the, as you said, the three.
You get very into the weeds quite quickly, and I think as an industry we tend to do that as well. To be honest with you, so. And
I really love to comment about ad tech being like dog years because it moves so fast. And just as a general question, like temperature check from can last year. PubMatic were absolutely flying, but as an industry, I know it was a challenging time for many. What's your kind of general temperature check? Because we're towards the end of Cannes now. Just a vibe and a. How the land lies and how people feel.
Well, if we want to measure it by the amount of hours of sleep I've had, then I would suggest that Cannes is back to where it used to be. I just want to hasten to add, I was working the entire time.
I know you were.
So I feel as though the vibe is, it's a different audience now. So I don't really get involved in the creative side of stuff necessarily. I still feel that a lot of that happens down at the Palais, and as it should. But I do think there is more of I've spent a lot of time this week talking about sustainability, and actually somebody did say to me, a conversation with their partner earlier on, and they said, do you think it's a fad? And it's like, no, like the planet's dying. It's not a fad.
Look at the weather.
Yeah, but also precisely. 22 Cannes I've done, it's the second year where it's rained.
I know.
So I'm very unhappy about that. So I feel as though there is a seriousness. I feel like the topics have become really quite serious. So we are talking about environment, we are talking about safety, we are talking about transparency. I don't think I've not been involved, I've been on my periphery a little bit this year. I was more involved last year around the whole diversity, equity, inclusion, female empowerment, that kind of thing. I think it's happening, I've just not been particularly involved in it.
I listened in on a panel this morning, not intentionally, but I just stepped in out of the rain actually, but it was a really interesting one at the place by Cafe Rome. There's a great conversation happening, and all the wonderful pieces, and there's lots going on.
And I think that it's something that we have to keep having those conversations around.
Absolutely.
Because my big fear, when we started to have some challenges, the Russia-Ukraine situation, when that first started and you start to see people, it's like when something bad is happening, the natural inclination is to batten down the hatches and do what you've always done because you feel safe doing that. And I think up until that point, we've been really vocal about diversity, equity, inclusion, gender equality, all of that. And I was really worried that was going to take a bit of a back seat. In fact, what I've seen is almost the opposite. People are really leaning into this. We talked to a lot of the agencies about how do we help them buy minority-owned media? How do we make sure that, they're buying sustainably? How do we make sure that they are buying across verified publishers where we've got fact-check news? And so actually, instead of people just pulling away and sort of going down to like, we'll just do what we've always done, I've actually seen an acceleration of people leaning into this area, which I'm really pleased about.
Yeah, absolutely, we really hear that. I guess actually, but the tech is now being created to support it, so it puts it on the agenda. Precisely,
and looking at SPO sort of inadvertently, even though it probably wasn't designed to do that, has helped people to do that.
Yes, absolutely. And it's funny about the creativity piece because it is very much at the other end of the Palais, but we work a lot within the influencer marketing sector. A bit of a random sort of
off-piece. Oh my God, I know nothing about this.
This is a problem. We're really seeing that bleed into ad tech. So I think that's happening because I spoke to somebody the other day and there's like, okay, so how do you how do you buy programmatically around influencer marketing? I kind of thought maybe within a few years that does become a conversation, because influencers are fundamentally really big content owners.
They really are, and you know, their intellectual property is quite phenomenal.
Yeah.
One of my favourite Peloton instructors is here this week.
There you go.
Honestly,
your biggest celeb.
Absolutely, like one LinkedIn message away from a replacement. But you know, I'm more interested in what Leanne Hainsman's doing, and so it's what I'm supposed to be doing. So So you're right. And influencers come in all shapes and sizes. I think initially everyone's like on influencers for someone from Love Island, but actually I'm not going to engage with that necessarily. But you know, it's someone who's talking about wellness, or not trying to pretend everything's brilliant, but also bringing their whole self and that level of authenticity. I went to a WPP event at the beginning of the year, and they had a panel again on influencers, and they have an influencer marketing agency, and they had a panel on
Goat, we know really well.
Exactly, so they were on stage, and thank you for that. And you know, the thing that they were talking about most was actually, if you are not authentic, this audience will really understand that very quickly and are going to completely switch off.
Yes.
So making sure that level of authenticity, and I think that's really become very prevalent in that. I'm not an expert, but just from the influencers that I engage with and follow, you do feel the minute somebody comes across as inauthentic,
you pass it. Cool. Look, a question to put you on the spot. This has been such a great way to close camp for me, actually, to my next action is to get to the plane. So we'll sit down. But 1 year from now, what's going to be hot topics and where we'll be at? Or I guess that journey of whether it's creation, CTV, measurement. Will it be creation, CTV, and measurement, or will we be so much further along in that journey? There's something new on the agenda. I
think that I would like that we are much further along in that journey. I think that, you know, some of the conversations that have been a little bit nascent this year, but I'm starting to see ramp up, is around commerce.
Okay.
Having lots of conversations around retail media.
Absolutely,
and again, it's from all sides. So the buyers are interested, the brands are interested, the data partners are interested. And I feel like it's this sort of Venn diagram where retail can sit really nicely in the middle of that. So I feel like I've had a lot of conversations around that. I would expect to see that accelerate and maybe mature a little bit over the next 12 months.